Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Solarland Hemp Farming. We're going to let some folks come in. We got a few tunes this morning. Good morning, and welcome to Solarland Hemp Farming. Encourage you to share, encourage you to participate, ask questions, and make sure you add comments. So good morning. I am so excited about this conversation today, and we're not going to belabor the point. We're going to get into it. Good morning, everyone. I'm Roz McCarthy. I'm the founder and the CEO of Minorities for Medical Marijuana. And this is one of my favorite webinar series and education that we provide for our members and for the general public. Hemp and the opportunity of hemp farming is one of the number one industries and opportunities that are going to be afforded, especially to farmers, but also to the general public. Something that I've never seen in my lifetime, just the opportunity that's going to be there. And so with that being said, we have three awesome guests today that are very, very connected to the hemp farming industry. They're doing it. They're going to talk about their best practices, successes, and pitfalls. For all of you guys out there, if you have farmland, if you're thinking about being a hemp farmer, if you're already farming and you want to add to the conversation, please add a comment right now. Take a minute, share this screen, share this, share, because we're going to go in depth. So let me begin with my young lady, my friend, just someone, my sister in cannabis, Catherine. Good morning. Introduce yourself to everyone. Let them know who you are.
Good morning, Rod. Hi, nice to see you. I'm Catherine Thomas, and I'm from Canada, but I'm currently in Georgia and Chicago working with a company called Healthy Place Botanicals. They are a wonderful company that owns some farmland in Georgia, so we're actually just starting the process right now. I'm happy to be here. I've known you, Roz, now I think 5 years. We followed each other and met at different conferences, and we're still doing things a different way, but farming's still going to be there, and we need to make it relevant and part of our lives. So I came from Canada now to share my skill set with hemp farmers and just to see how I could share information. So thanks for having me.
No, thank you for being on, Catherine. And our next guest that we have today is a friend of mine. We go so far back in regards, so we went to the same school together, university, the great University of Florida, the great university in Florida, Florida State University. Just got reconnected, and he's based in Georgia doing some beautiful work on the hemp side. Henry, please introduce yourself to everyone.
Good morning. My name's Henry Ostazuski. I'm with Blue 42 Organics. And as Roz mentioned, I played football at Florida State, my brother and I both, and played a little bit of professional football, and really saw the medicinal value in hemp with CBD, and wanted to make sure that we were getting a good source. So we started hemp farming about 5 years ago and partnered with the farm in Colorado and had the opportunity last year to grow here. So I can't wait to talk about how we started that, how we transitioned from Colorado to Georgia, and what we're doing to help build the Georgia hemp industry.
Thank you, Henry. Thank you for being on.
Thank you, Rob.
And last but not least, my brother, I just told someone, I said, if anyone has a relationship where you have a brother, but just two different mothers, it's Eric and I. Not only do I love you, I respect you, I appreciate you, your expertise, but also as our board chair for M4MM, and you are a hemp farmer licensed to farm and process in the state of Florida. Introduce yourself, Eric.
Hey, everybody. I'm taking off my M4MM hat. Well, kind of, sort of. It's always there. It's not one I could fully take off. But today, I'm so excited to be a part of the panel as a guest. And I'm going to have to remember that I'm a guest and not the moderator. As usual, you guys see Roz and I together all the time. But yeah, it's exciting. I got into the hemp space in 2020, right after the world kind of shut down. So last year was an interesting year for us. We didn't get to put any, we did put some seeds in the ground, but this year we got to put some seeds in the ground. So we're getting going. I'm kind of considering this our first year versus, last year. So just, super excited to share my experiences to help farmers, learn as much as they can if they're going to get into this space. And, I'm just super excited to be a part of the conversation today.
Absolutely. So guys, we have this beautiful plant that does so much, and that is just the opportunity. I just want to kind of go round robin, and Henry, Catherine, Eric, when did you first fall in love with this plant, and when did you know, like, I'm going to get in this industry? Like, this is an opportunity that I cannot pass up.
Go ahead. For me, I've always used cannabis most of my life. I've believed in plant-based medicine. I started working in the industry on the medical side of cannabis, but then soon learned in about 2017 that you couldn't alter the molecule between CBD and in hemp or cannabis. So in hemp was a lot easier to get licensed, and I was like, hey, why not? If I don't have to have $500,000 to get a license, or and I pay $50 and I can grow as much as I want and still existing medicinal benefits, then why not start there? So that's what made me originally get into hemp farming, was less restrictive licensing, and really just knowing that people were after the non-psychoactive effect, and I could still get into a market at an easier way, as opposed to being a big corporation with a lot of funding.
That's great. Awesome. Henry, your thoughts? Like, when did when they say, when did you first fall in love with football? When did you first fall in love with hemp, and you knew that this was your journey and your mission that you're going to be on?
That's a great question. My brother and I both had a nonprofit for children, for underprivileged and overweight kids. So it was real hard for us to transition. We knew how good the product was. And it wasn't really until Charlotte's Web came about that they started doing the research for kids and epilepsy. Then we also realized that it works for CTE. A lot of my teammates struggled with CTE. A lot of them are no longer here. And it was one of those components out there that was natural, that there needs to be a lot more research. But as anecdotally taking it, it's definitely helped myself and a lot of my teammates, the CBD. And it just helps with the sleep. It helped with anxiety. So I'm a believer in it because I use it and I believe in it. And the hardest part was finding a good source of CBD, organic source of CBD in the marketplace. So we went out and created that space. We do all organic. All our farms and our partners are organic, and we know our source. And that's important when you're cooking a product that you're putting in your body, especially a product that has so much controversy around it. So we totally believe in know your source, and we feel the difference because we know how it's farmed from the time it's, you have hemp to fork from seed all the way to the point till we get it in that bottle. We know where that plant has been. So it's important to us and important to our customers. So we'll always hold that high level of integrity. And that's why we got into it. And I really got intimate with the plant this year, growing our seed crop, listening to the plant, putting the science behind it, but then listening to that plant, looking at it. Does it need water? Doing your integrated pest management, and really just it's a really fun plant to work with. And it gives you signs to know that it needs something, or, you're doing too much of something. So it's a fun plant to work with. And I'm excited about growing the 2 acres we're going to grow this year. We went from 300 plants to 3,000 plants. And we'll talk about that later, about sustainability growing. Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Henry. Like, when did you, you were the advocate. We're talking about organization stuff, but when did you know, like, all right, I'm about to be a part of this whole hemp industry, and that bug that just kind of bit you?
Honestly, it was through the advocacy. You and I had been working together on the medical marijuana front here in Florida. And I saw how restrictive it was. It was very clear and very apparent early on that there wasn't going to be space for me and other, small farmers and Black farmers to be able to participate in the medical marijuana program. And it was somewhere, I think I was at a conference, and someone started to talk a little bit more about hemp. And they talked, and I remember the first time I heard it, they said there was something like 25,000 known products that can come from the hemp plant. And when they started listing these products, and it wasn't what we can roll up in a joint and smoke, I was like, wait a second, you mean we could do more with this plant than just smoke it? Like there's more to it? And that's when I began my deep dive and just really wanting to understand the plant, and that was kind of at the same time that the CBD craze kind of started to kick up. And so I paid attention to that. But, my interest was really in the space where we weren't yet really focused on as an industry, with hemp, even still now, most people focus on CBD, which is great.
Sure.
I love all parts of the plant, but I got excited about everything else that, we haven't yet explored. And so my company, we're focusing on the food, we're focusing on the hemp as a grain and what we can do with it as a renewable food source. I mean, we're facing food scarcities across the world. When I think about communities of color and food deserts, to me, it just really spoke to me like I can create economic benefit for myself and my family, while at the same time creating global impact by helping to clean the soil, clean the air, put out a product that was renewable. And those things really, really, spoke to me. So, that's what I got, that's when I got excited.
That's awesome. So, what I want to do is I want to create a foundation of what hemp farming is and the different opportunities from food source, medical, and then industrial. So I know, E, you talked about food source a little bit, but Henry, I'm going to start with you on the medical side, and then Catherine, I'm going to come to you. So get ready for me to talk about the industrial uses of, but just give people a foundation of, from a hemp farming perspective, what are the different ways that you can utilize hemp and farm for it? And then maybe, Henry, if you want to talk about the seed, the flower, the stalk, and that'd be great.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we mostly harvest our plants for CBD and high levels of CBD and CBG. We know what it does anecdotally. There needs to be a lot more research. There is Epidiolex is on the marketplace, one of the first pharmaceuticals that's out there from the hemp plant. I want to focus more on the, as you do, Eric, the nutritional side of it as a supplement versus synthesizing it into big pharma. I think that's one of our biggest things we have to really combat with. And we just did an article for ABC News in Atlanta. And even, there needs to be a lot more education, because that's the only thing that people think the plant is good for is smoking, a smokable flower or pre-roll, and then also for the CBD. It has so many more properties. And I'll kind of segue into what Catherine's going to talk about. We've worked with local mills here, fiber mills, small micro mills that do protein fiber, all the Angora sheep and wool. And we started blending our fiber with alpaca. So there's a great opportunity on fiber alone, and then as a renewable resource. Cotton is a water hog. As you talk about resources, cotton is a great plant. It's grown mostly here in Georgia. But if we can start offsetting those farms with hemp, totally different plant, grows 15 feet tall. It's more like a stalk not of bamboo than it is, what we're looking for in the flower. But there's so much opportunity in biofuels. One of the things you pointed out, Eric, is I'm in supply chain. So what I do is I make sure that everything we do from the time we grow that plant, we put it in the marketplace, that we're using every part of the plant, one, and that anything we put in the marketplace is biodegradable. Like our tubes for our pre-rolls are made from hemp plastic, which is biodegradable. So we're also looking at what waste are we putting in the marketplace. You pointed out there's a lot of waste in cannabis industry and plastic. So we're trying to mitigate those risks early on in the supply chain and making sure that whatever we put in the marketplace, it's reusable, renewable, or biodegradable. So, and I can't wait to talk more about that as you work on your packaging, Eric, and everyone else in the industry, how we can look at the plant. We're putting a great plan into the marketplace in so many different ways, but how can we as business owners mitigate all the waste that we put into the marketplace and packaging and everything else? So great opportunities for us in so many different levels with the hemp plant. But we focus, and back to the medicinal side of it, we want to get to the point where you can kind of do like a 23andMe chromosome, and we can actually identify the cannabinoids in the plant that best suit you as an individual. A lot more research has to be done, but that's out there, and that's the research at the universities. We need to start leveraging the universities and doing that. So a lot of opportunity, and I'm excited about it. So we got a great forum here. Great conversation. Thanks.
Thank you, Henry. That's so on point in regards to just the opportunity and just how big the marketplace is, and being able to even like that 23andMe type of opportunity of being able to connect with your own genetics to the plant and figuring out where that connection is. Catherine, share with me on maybe you could just speak briefly on the industrial side of the biodiesel, the clothing manufacturing. Just talk about the opportunity that presents to this country and to those people that eventually are trying to figure out where my place is in the industry.
Sure, and I just wanted to point out that we have been federally legal in Canada for cannabis now for 4 years. So that makes things alters the game a little bit for me, because I feel that what I've noticed here is I came here to basically assess what was going on. And I really didn't even end up to meet in the farm in Georgia. It was just, I guess, serendipitous that I was meant to go there and led to and I basically support only Black owned businesses. So I decided to take my skill set and share my education, my knowledge in that community where I noticed there's just a very poor lack of communication and sharing of resources right now. So I feel like we have to come together like this, and that's why I'm speaking here today. That's why I'm speaking at the Hemp Summit in Georgia. I've been to Fort Valley University. I've been to the University of South Carolina. I've met the industrial farmers with the African American Farmers Association. They specifically primarily focus on industrial, and I'm just making my way around what they're doing. And so I'm happy to reconnect with you, Eric, as well, because we met 4 years ago, I believe, in Boston, and I'm happy to see how you've grown and developed. And I'm so proud of your work, because you're light years ahead of what's going on even, and so is Henry, from my observation that we just need to share more information. We need to come together more. So that's my primary focus here by being in America. And again, I didn't even mean to end up in Georgia or South Carolina or any of the other places that I've been led to, but that's the biggest common denominators. We're not sharing enough information together. So we really, these are important forums, and we just have to keep sharing and educating each other on the information and resources that we have. And that's the way that we can, I think, develop and move forward.
Absolutely. Hey, E, set a foundation for people that go, hey, I want to get into hemp. You know, so what should they be thinking about? And then all the different variety of areas when you talk about I want to get into hemp, and like when you get that question posed to you.
Shameless plug here. I wrote an ebook on it. You can definitely go to ericrange.com and grab that ebook and join the Chairman's Club. And I, you know, it's a shameless plug, but I also do it because I know how important it is, like Catherine just said, for people to belong to a community, right? You know, as you're going through this, because you are going to face challenges. There are no two ways about that, right? But if you can have those challenges and then have a group that you can come back to and, you know, throw those challenges to, and we come up with ideas together how to, you know, deal with them, then that's important. And so for me, you know, I wrote an ebook, and I'll be honest with you, it is really transferable to any industry and to any small business. And it really sets the foundation before you start growing hemp, before you get into the industry. What do you need to be doing? And you know, I cover in that book 3 areas that I think are absolutely key before you get going in this space. And the first thing is understanding the laws, right? Understanding the national framework that around, you know, surrounds hemp. Understanding the state framework that surrounds hemp, because you know that's going to be key, and it's ever changing, and you need to be abreast of that. And then I also cover understanding your vision, because a lot of people, you know, I get people come to me all the time and they want to get into hemp farming, but they've never even farmed, you know, grown a tomato in their backyard. And you know, I'm not trying to, you know, convince anybody not to do anything, but it's a steep, you know, climb to go from a professional 9-to-5 business person to being, you know, a farmer. And I try not to sugarcoat that for people. And I try to get people to really understand what their vision is before they get going. And then the last area is it's really about the supply chain, but your distribution. How are you going to, you know, put whatever it is you're creating into the market? And if you don't understand that before you get started, you're in for some really, really, rocky waters, on the end. And I'm sure both Henry and Catherine can attest to that. And so, and it's not foolproof or fail safe, but it's something that I think is important for you to consider before you get going in the space. And then when you do, as you're going through that process, really understand what it is that you want to grow for. Because again, you can grow, fiber, and you can grow seed, and you can grow CBD, but they're different genetics. So you can't just go buy any genetics and just put them in the ground and hope to get CBD. You have to understand what it is your end goal is before you get started in this space. So that's really the foundational things that I think are important for people to, get a hold of and really understand what can be done with this plant. And see how you can, envision what that end looks like even before you spend your first dollar. Because once you start spending, the spending doesn't really end.
It doesn't stop. So you know what, Henry, that's a great
face. Henry
that's a great segue. So if you don't notice, Henry can you explain where you are right now? It looks like you're sitting inside of your is that your cultivation room, or talk about that. And Henry, he just made a great point. You got to figure out where you want to be. Where's your end game? How do you figure out? I mean, I know we talked about, you want to create products, but how did you find your genetics? How did you go from 300 plants, or just that entry to that first 300 plants?
So as I mentioned, we've been farming with a partner farm in Colorado since 2017. So I learned this a long time ago. Before you go and invest and do something, go and work in the industry and see if you want to do that. And you made a good point to me, Roz, when we first started talking and getting back and going through all our conversations and learning more about each other the last 30 years. It's the why. Why are you getting in the industry? If you're just getting in this industry because you think you see the dollar signs and you can make millions of dollars, then you're in it for the wrong reason. Because I'll tell you, I just got done farming this morning, and farming isn't easy. Farming is hard work. And I like that hard work. It reminds me of 2 days, getting in the field early in the morning, smelling that grass, smelling that soil. It brings back, so I don't mind the hard work in the morning. But if somebody thinks they're just going to go to the Home Depot and buy some seeds and throw it on the ground and grow a bunch of hemp, it's just a weed and you're going to grow it, they have the wrong perception of this plant and this industry. You really have to do your homework. You got to have, as I mentioned, an IPM, integrated pest management. I mean, there's a lot of pests, especially here in Georgia, that like our plant. So growing organically, we have to now learn how we can mitigate that. And nature usually finds the way, making sure you have bird feeders up so they're eating the worms, all that stuff. Nature finds the way. And if you listen, you'll see that. But back to your question, going from 300 plants to 3,000, everyone, you put up a really good point, Eric. Georgia had its laws were all over the place last year. They changed midstream. So you have to be aware of the laws. Anyone who went and grew big last year, guess what? They're sitting on 4,000 or 5,000 pounds of hemp. They didn't have a plan. You have to have a plan when you go into this industry. We fortunately have several brands that we created that we have distribution and retail places we can sell our product. You have to have a processor. You need to have a good relationship with your processor. You want to make sure that it's your plant that's getting processed and not a conglomerate or an aggregate of a bunch of different farms.
Other plants.
Yeah, so you have to build. I would say you brought up something, Eric, that I really like. Community and a sense of belonging. You have to have a sense of belonging and trust in your network, and you need to build that early on in this industry. I've done really well. I work with Boulder Hemp in Colorado. They've been doing genetics. They're 2 PhD scientists at a University of Colorado. They've been doing genetics for 8 years now. They produce really good CBD plants. I'm not going to go anywhere else. I'm working there. I've been fortunate enough where they've allowed me to use their genetics and start my seed business here in Georgia. I still have to cultivate those plants, and you're working with nature, and that's on its own timeline. You can't rush it. So year over year, we have to build a better plan for Georgia, and that's what we're doing. So it takes time. And
Henry, do you sing to your plants? Do you play music for your plants? Do you sing to them?
You know what? That's a great segue. You're gonna laugh. I hope the music's going. I'm gonna get up and walk, and I'm gonna try to do this or to make everybody dizzy. But you can see, like right here, we're starting from the seeds. This isn't our seeds, but we're starting, our seedlings this year. So these are our seedlings, and we're starting there. All the plants that we're growing right now is seed. This is all the seeds that we're growing to flower, so we can actually get our COAs. No one brought that up yet, but you have to have a COA on every plant, and it has to be a lot number. So I know that this plant, what it's going to produce. When I'm selling to a farmer, I know that this Cherokee Rose that I'm cultivating is going to produce a high dollar plant, value. It's a really good looking plant. I know what it's going to do because I know the genetics of it, but I'm excited for it. Here's our grow room, and this is all for seed. So yeah, the music's playing, Roz.
See, how did I know? How did I guess it?
So this is our seed crop. Let me turn the radio down. I try to wake him up in the day with a little bit of rock and roll, some rap, some reggae. But plants are a living organism. They love vibration. They love music. I play classical at night, so they get those beta waves. Call me crazy, but I've been around a lot of hemp and cannabis farmers for the last 20, 30 years. And the best plants I've ever seen, they play music for them. So,
yes. Oh, man.
This is producing amazing seeds, so. And the whole thing is I keep it extremely clean. It's more of a lab environment. So I'll stop there, but you have to, and we went with LED lights because we want to be energy conscious, and the lights have gotten so much better now. So we're with LED instead of the high pressure sodium.
Awesome. I'm gonna let you get recenter, and I want to go to Catherine. Catherine, you, when we first met, maybe a year after we met, you were meeting with folks in the Caribbean about hemp farming, about, even from a cannabis opportunities there. And then now you've got this connection with Georgia Black farmers, and you've been very intentional in South Carolina, what have you. What have you seen has been some of the challenges for the folks that you've been trying to work with and get them connected? What are some of the things that you are helping to try to mitigate some of those challenges?
Sure, and I just had one comment to what Henry had to say. So my first year, I grew 50 acres, which was 4 years ago, on my own. Somebody said, oh, use the land. So I was like, okay. And I had no plan in place, and I grew 50 acres, and it actually grew. I had no irrigation, nothing, and I had no processing plan. And I started hand harvesting an acre. And I was dead after the acre, and I was like 49 more to go, and there was no combine to take it off. So a farmer down the road, which neighbor farmers usually help each other out. That's one thing I do like about farming. He came and combined it for me, and it came down, but it tested 4% THC and 2% CBD. So genetics were terrible, obviously. And so that made me, it took me a year to get a genetic approved on the Health Canada cultivars list. And it took me to the full next season to get it approved. So that's one problem I see in the industry prior to this, was the lack of genetics. Like Henry now has good genetics, and I'm sure that didn't happen overnight. It's been quite a process. So that's one downfall. I just wanted to share that. So I grew 50 acres of really hot hemp, but the next year I grew 8 acres. I scaled back tremendously. My hemp went to the University of Guelph for a hemp bioplastic project. And so it wasn't a total waste. And so we learned and grew and developed from that, where we only grew 8 acres. So don't scale up is my advice. Always
start small.
Please start small. So, and again, with as far as I've been just here for about 4 weeks now, Ross. So I've really just been trying to make my way around and see what's going on. Your regulations are a bit different state to state, and I find it very confusing that South Carolina is probably about a year or two more advanced than you, Henry, now that I've met you. But in Georgia, I see a very lack of there's a gap there for information sharing. So we're hoping to fill these gaps with the Hemp Summit and having platforms like this. Again, I found when I've been sitting with financing with the USDA, one of their pre-qualifiers is that you get denied first somewhere else. I find that like that's setting up people up for failure. I feel like why would that be a requirement when we should be ensuring success a little bit differently. We should be looking at it, I think, differently. And I think we have to change some views and opinions that we have to make financing and loans. And I really feel that the money is in more of the environmental. That's where I seem to see that the farming money seems that you can get there, but there seems to be quite a few steps that are not clear to most people. So I think sharing that information on the exact steps that you need for financing and or loans, low percentage rates, how to get those and make those attainable. There should be an office, I think, in every state where, you know, especially minority-owned farmers can come in and get help with paperwork, for example, because that's another lack of knowledge that I find. It's just the application process. I'm overwhelmed by it, and I'm actually specialized in regulations. And so I don't think it'd be easy for, it's not easy for me. So I'm pretty sure it's not easy for everyone, but saying and sharing your failures is what's really important to learn from. So all the mistakes I've made. So I did the 8 acres, but the next year I did over 1,000. So do you know, it's just like sharing your failures and your information and really just making it how I'm super happy. I'm going to get your book, Eric. Thank you. I didn't know that you had that available. And I'm going to read that. I'm really excited too. And
not only read it, but we got to share it. We got to get.
I'm sharing it with everyone now. That's it. I'm putting it in part of I hope you're all coming to the Hemp Summit in Georgia because I'm there and I want to see all of you now. And I really want to meet you, Henry. I'm going to find you when I'm in Georgia next week. I'm coming. So.
All right, and I'm going to put information about the summit. So for everybody that's listening, don't worry. Before we get out of here, I'll put the information in here. But okay, so everybody, let's get to the nuts and bolts. So we got good questions coming through via our comment section. And one of the questions that always comes up, how many acres do I need to start growing hemp? Well, like first and foremost, you got to make sure that you're licensed to grow. So that's another conversation. But Henry can talk about from his perspective. And then, you know, Eric, if you want to talk about from your farmers that are, you not only grow, but you have farmers in your network. Ideally, what should people be thinking about when they're thinking, I want to start growing?
Yeah,
anybody?
I can go first. You know, for me, the farmers who come to me and want to work with me, like I won't even, you know, recommend anything more than 5 acres to start with. And that can be a lot, you know, again, like Catherine said, if you don't have, you know, the machinery you need, you don't have the labor force you need, 5 acres is not going to be any small feat. Trust me, guys. But we last year, just for kind of shits and giggles, we planted 2 acres just to kind of see what we would get. And I'll tell you, 3 days after we planted, we got that storm in North Florida and it flooded out the field and we got absolutely nothing. So, you know, I'm, you know, when I built my business plan and my business model, when I got, you know, partners to come on board and to invest in it, I told everybody from the get-go, you know, first year, don't expect any return. Let's expect a loss, as a matter of fact. Let's start off from that standpoint. Obviously, we're not, you know, planning for a loss, but we're hoping for a success. But for us, you know, I didn't know what I didn't know. And so I didn't want anyone coming into it, my farmers, my investors, anybody in my network, feeling as though we were going to hit the jackpot in the first year. Like I even if we did, I wanted people's expectations to be that we were going to completely tank and that we were just learning. And so, you know, for us, we started that. And then we also, again, when you're coming into new states, especially like Georgia and Florida, you know, anecdotally, we could do things differently than you can do in, say, a Colorado. We could potentially get multiple harvest cycles and so on. But all of this is anecdotal until you actually, you know, try it. You know, for us, we could potentially plant later in the year. But what people don't say when they say that is that you could also face more hurricanes later in the year as well. And that can completely destroy your crop. And so Like for us, we put our first seeds in the ground this year in February, primarily because all of my farmers are in North Florida, and we were just ending, kind of the freezes and so on. But I wanted to see how it would do if we got stuck in a freeze, just to kind of get an idea how we can adjust. And so, I tell everybody, use your first year as a planning year or as a research year, just to learn about the plant, learn what it's going to do on your farm, because you can go out and learn as much as you want, but that plant is going to behave very differently everywhere it goes, because it is nature, and we can't force nature to do what what we want it to do. It's usually the other way around.
Yep. Henry, your thoughts?
So, to Eric's point, start small. And Catherine, I did 300 plants last year just to see what strains would do well here in Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
We got hit, so I was doing great. They were doing really well. And I was in pots. It wasn't in the ground, so I was in pots, and I used the living soil. And we got hit with so much rain that, I got root rot probably on half of the plants. I couldn't get them dry. You can take them out of the pot and let them dry out. But, 300 plants, that's a lot of work, a lot of labor. So we lost a large part of our crop. We had really good. And so this year, to mitigate that, I put a high tunnel in. I wasn't eligible, and we talked about it, I wasn't eligible for a grant for a high tunnel this year, but it will be next year. So if you're growing hemp for flower, you really want to protect that plant and do an indoor grow or a high tunnel grow, because you do want to protect it from the elements of Mother Nature. Mother Nature wreaked havoc on us last year, and I learned, and there's nothing you can do. I'm up at 4 o'clock in the morning putting stakes up, trying to hold my biggest buds up, but they break off, and it's a trial and error period. But I didn't invest a lot of money. I invested what I had to invest, and that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of people that I know that invested a lot of money into large acreage, just like you did, and you fail, and that kind of gives the industry a bad name, even for the farmers. Well, I did this. Start small, 5 acres. And then let's get the right genetics and then start moving forward. And you need the forecast. What does the weather look like this year? You have a farmer's almanacs that people for 100 years, over 100 years, they've been following the farmer's almanac. I remember I went to my partner, Barry Smith, over in Emerson. He goes, this year's going to suck. There's 23 named storms. Well, he was wrong. There's 26 storms last year. And it just, that came up to the pipe. And it was a really tough year for farmers, not just hemp farmers, all farmers.
Yeah.
So it's really, again, it comes back to having a plan, knowing what you're going to do with your plant. This year, we're going to have probably about 350 plants under a high tunnel, and then we'll have those out. And I tell the farmer I'm leasing the land from, I lease the land with the farmer. Don't expect anything the first year. We're going to see how well the land does. And then next year, he has 17 acres. We're growing on 2. We'll expand from there. So it's constant. I call it sustainable growth, and especially in this industry, create a sustainable growth model that you can, your supply chain, where your plant's going, and then grow from there and build your relationships. And that's what we need to do. We need to educate these farmers on how to build the relationships. A lot of farmers don't have fully vertical. They just want to farm it, harvest it, and push it off to the next person. And that's what most farmers do. So we have to, as responsible people advocating for the industry, have those resources available that can buy their crops, whatever they're growing for. So that's what I'm working on now, and that's important. And when I do come to the summits and talk, that's where we make our connections. That's where we make our connections with the businesses that are looking for hemp and that can buy it. We want the goal is to have our hemp sold before we plant it. That's what we want. That's our goal.
Yeah. And can I add to that really quick too? You guys notice Henry said he started with 300 plants and then he moved to 3,000, and he's been farming before. You know what I mean? Like that's also another thing. And I see Josh's comment in the chat. Is absolutely right. If you have never done this before, start with a handful of plants. You know what I mean? Like, you learn as much as you can about the plants. Start small. There's no need to try to, this industry isn't going anywhere. Like, you don't have to try to beat the race out the gate, especially if you've never, farmed before. But most of the farmers I'm working with, they're 4th generation, 5th generation farmers. They're somewhat new to the hemp plant, but they're also there are deep scars that exist out there from how big tobacco took advantage of Black and brown farmers, and so there's a lot of fear there, and there's a lot of trepidation just to get into the space and to make the investment that may be necessary. Because again, when you're growing for CBD, you're going to want to add some things to make sure that your plants are going to, give it the best shot. So you're going to have nutrient profiles. You're going to have things that, whereas when I'm growing for grain, we don't have to worry about some of that as much as, we don't have to put so much care into our plant as Henry does. But, it's still, a process, and we still have to walk the farm. We have to, take pictures and document, rainfall. And I mean, those things are, if you don't have a process,
it matters.
It really does. It really does.
And if you're growing for grain, I don't want to put a CBD crop next to you because you're pollinating, and that pollen can travel for half mile. So you have to make sure that if you can't grow both, you have to grow one or the other. So
absolutely, absolutely.
Go ahead, Catherine. No, go please.
I just want to comment about support. The supporting is really important. That's why a lot of people don't know, and like Eric said, they could be third or fourth generational people that have had land and have been taken advantage of, so very hesitant. So that's why when I met with the African American Farmers Association, they support the farmer through the process completely. It's an association similar, I think, to what you're doing, but now us being able to share that information with your farmers and building that basis of sharing information, that's really what needs to happen. So it's actually, they support the farmer from A to B through the process, and and that's really what needs to happen. I think here is that farmers need more support, and they need to build trust, I think, and I understand that they need to build trust, and that's why we'll continue to sharing to get the trust and get the support that's needed. So I just wanted to comment that there's other sustainable measures too that they're using on their farms, such as vegetable growing in conjunction with their hemp, which is another revenue source for them if it's lettuce and it's vertical growing. And so they're looking at other revenue sources that are in conjunction with. So they know the farmers take a loss with the hemp the first year. That's the reality of the situation. If you want to be rich off of your first hemp grow, then that's not the business for you for sure. But there's looking at other revenue sources. Healthy Place Botanicals will be growing bamboo on our farm because we make bamboo toilet paper. We want to set up our manufacturing facility right there on our farm in Georgia for our bamboo toilet paper. Why? Because that's another whole conversation of what environmental products are doing to ourselves and how we can change those with other revenue sources from bamboo, cooperative farming. It goes hand in hand with all of this. So it's really just looking at other revenue sources to generate for that hemp farmer for their first year. So it's not a total shock or loss to them, because a lot of people don't want to take that risk if it's a loss no matter what. And it is. And that's factual for sure.
And you have to prepare folks. And so what everybody that's listening, I want you to get from this is that what Catherine is trying to make sure you guys get is that you got to work together. We have to create community and learn from one another. And so that's the reason why we have Sow the Land Hemp Farming, because I knew Catherine. I didn't know she was working with the Black farmers, the African-American farmers there in Georgia and South Carolina. Now we have people like Stanley and some other folks that are in Georgia that are going to, be able to touch base with Catherine, make those connections, learn and share maybe what they have. And it just goes in a full circle. One of the things that's come up, and I want you guys, it's on the screen right now, where do you guys recommend getting plants with proper genetics that meet the 3% threshold? And basically what she's asking about is seeds. And if you don't mind, Henry, can you talk about, I know that your connection was Colorado, but can you talk about the importance of seeds and getting the right seeds for what you're trying to grow for, and kind of maybe trying to figure out what that looks like in your mind?
As Eric pointed out, genetics is key. You want to grow a plant, you have to, one, know what you're growing for. Most people are growing for hemp flower or CBD, CBG. CBG doesn't do well here in Georgia because it's prone to mold. We have high humidity here that they don't have in Colorado. So you have to have a plan in place to mitigate the mold. And there's organic solutions for that. We're growing our crop here, and we'll take the best mothers or best plants from the field, and we'll turn those into mothers, and then we'll start growing crops from that. So we look for the best plant, the one that comes up when we're growing our seedlings, and we identify those because those are usually the best genetics. and we follow the plant. So we're looking at the plant, looking at the plant's profile, how it's growing, all of that. And those plants or those seeds become the genetics for the next crop. And and we always keep a mother. So if we have something that does well, we can always take a clone and reproduce that same strain so we have that. So that's, key in the industry. You want to have F1 genetics where you're using the genetics for every crop going forward. We're producing great seed. It's our first year. We try to produce the 1,000+ seeds for farmers, but this year probably a little bit more boutique. We might be selling, 30 seeds to a farmer for them to try our strains in Georgia, and we're aware of that. But we have good genetics. We have a good foundation of where our genetics are coming from. 7 years of a proven crop in Colorado. Now we have to create the genetics where we have 5, 6 years, 7 years of proven crop here in Georgia. So it takes time to get good genetics. If anyone's interested, Blue 42 Organics, they can just reach out to me on .com and our seed and get some great seeds.
I'm interested.
Yeah, so get some great seeds. And we do things different. Like we're doing. I try to take we talk about Georgia farming's been around here forever. Think about Georgia, and you talked about taking the tobacco companies. There's a hemp Georgia in Georgia because they used to grow so much hemp in Georgia. So we went and just kind of went old school and just kind of created a cute little seed bags and kind of came up with unique names for our strains indigenous to Georgia. And, we're just doing some really cool stuff, simple, just putting our seeds in a little seed bag, getting it out to our customers. And, and those that buy a lot, we have a nice little leather pouch that we put it in. If someone's going to be spending $3,000 in seed, I can put it in. So it's about marketing. It's about presentation and good genetics.
Yeah.
So we have that, but we want our customers coming back to us, our farmers coming back to us year over year, because they're producing a solid crop. That's the goal.
Yeah.
Henry, talk about the cost of those genetics, because that's really the question that I think I'd like to start there with people so that they understand the level of investment that they're going to have to do. But for 1 acre of seed from you, how much is someone talking?
Well, you can get anywhere from 1,500 plants on an acre, and we sell our seeds for $1.50. Yep. That's at 1,000 break point. If you're buying just 20, 30 seeds, or 100 seeds, it's $3 a seed, and that's expensive. But if you see what goes into the genetics, the money that goes into it, you talk about a loss. I've taken a loss for the last 2 years, but I'm buying equipment that I can scale with. I'm buying best equipment I can buy because I want to be able to scale with that equipment, and it's always going to be changing. I mean, there's a whole industry around cannabis and hemp, especially when you talk about indoors, that you start going to hydroponics and all the different ways you can grow. There's a whole industry around that. So I want to make sure that we're growing with the best LED lights that are on the marketplace. So I can see, I can start testing. And they have a 20-year lifespan. So I'm investing in good equipment. And that's the other thing, equipment, light meters, all the things that you need to buy as you grow to make sure that your plant's in check. There's a lot of people that are zen, just go out there and touch and feel, but there's a great science, like all the lab reports you have to do. I send all my plants, soil and tissue samples, just leaves, fan leaves, down to Camilla, Georgia, and I know the level of nutrients in my soil, and I can see the plant uptaking that through the soil samples and tissue samples that I get. That's important. So it's the science behind it too.
Yes. And remember, guys, and just real quick, Eric, I just want to remember, this plant is an absorber. It takes whatever's in the soil, it's going to pick up. So that's why when you're talking about understanding what your soil is, so important to have that knowledge of what you're starting with.
Exactly.
You had a comment? Yep.
Yeah, I was going to say that, for us in Florida, we have a very different ball game altogether when it comes to genetics. Like, I think Henry is in a good position in terms of, what he's able to do. But here in the state of Florida, you have two, I guess, routes for getting genetics, right? It's one, either you get AOSCA certified seed, which I can tell you is a challenge just because AOSCA really isn't certifying seeds. So the workaround has been seeds that have gone through an AOSCA type approval process and have been certified that way. Or you can get seeds through one of the research pilot programs at the University of Florida or FAMU. here in Florida. So those are like your only two sources primarily. And then, the other thing is the only people who can go and start a genetics program like what Henry is doing are those who have a nursery license. So if you're just someone who is cultivating those seeds, you can't produce a crop specifically for seeds to be able to farm that next year and stuff like that. So you have to be a nursery here. And, so again, it goes back to what I said. You got to know the laws where you are, and because that's going to dictate what you can and can't do, right from the onset. So I know for us, that was a huge issue. It created such a huge bottleneck for getting genetics into the state, and then having those. And again, this isn't necessarily a complaint, because I think when you're working with seeds that have been through some type of certification process, it is there to protect the farmer, right? You want seeds that are going to have good germination rates, that are going to produce what they say they're going to produce. Like if Henry tells you he's selling you seeds,
you don't want hot seeds. No hot seeds, because you have to make sure you don't get seeds that are hot from the get-go.
Well,
you'll have a mess.
Let's cover that in another topic, but let Eric finish. But I want to cover that.
But okay. What I was going to say is, like, when you get those seeds, if Henry tells you that those seeds are going to produce 15% CBD, and then you harvest your crop at the end of the year, and all you got is 7% CBD, you're going to be looking at Henry like, wait a minute, you told me it was going to produce one thing, but it didn't produce that, or the yields weren't what they were supposed to yield. Those things matter, especially if you're doing your planning on the front end in terms of understanding, everything all the way through the end. So genetics are such a tough thing. And then, I love to hear what Henry's doing in terms of, looking at how to breed those plants specifically for Georgia. So you have plants that are going to produce well in Georgia, because again, everywhere you go, these plants are going to, when the climate changes, the plant is going to change as well.
Yeah, we're at a lower latitude than Colorado, so our days aren't as long. A lot of things, higher humidity. But back to the getting hot, Roz, every hemp plant that you plant has the potential to go hot. That's just a fact. Every plant you grow as it matures has the potential to go hot. You want to plant early on. It's a 1-to-25 ratio. So if you're growing hemp, you want it to be 25% CBD, 1% THC. They can tell that when it's a seedling. But you have to, when your plant starts flowering, as a farmer, you need to start and get on a plan with, there's one here in Georgia that everybody uses, a lab. You have to start sending your labs in as soon as that plant starts flowering, because you have to follow that plant. Because you have 15 days once you have the state inspector come out to be able to harvest that. So it's important that the farmers have a plan, not just don't wait, oh, my plant's ready and go, and then all of a sudden it's 3.8, 0.38, and it's outside the limits. 0.375, I think, is where you can go with the variance. But you have to know that early on. So if your plant, you need to get your inspector out there when you see that THC level rising. And in order to get that 70% CBD, you have to let that plant mature so you can get those cannabinoids and that CBD level up to that level. So it is a game that we all play as hemp farmers every year. But if you get on with the lab and you get and that costs money, that's not cheap. You'll probably spend $1,200 in labs, depending on how many strains you have, to get that process in check. So as a farmer, you know that the plants you're harvesting are at that 0.3% legal limit. So I just wanted to point that out, Ross, because every plant has the potential to go hot.
Yeah, the THC is produced as a stress factor. The more that plant gets stressed, if it's getting too much water, it can produce more THC. If it's getting too little, or other things can really, really impact it. And like Henry said, that's why if you are growing the CBD, you have to pay very, very close attention to to that plant. It's a hands-on full contact sport, if you will. So absolutely.
Absolutely. Hey, Henry, we got a quick question for you. Then I'm going to go to Catherine. But tell people where you are in Georgia, and talk about the town that you're in and why it's so just kind of perfect for what you're doing right now.
So the two towns that we're in, Dahlonega, Georgia, and Dahlonega was the first U.S. gold rush. The other place that we have some seeds is in Ward, Colorado. which is, 10,000 feet up in the mountains, but both gold towns. The irony is, or I guess that this is for Georgia, this is the next gold rush, maybe the green rush, but there's great opportunity here. We have just scratched the surface on what we need, what we can do in the hemp industry. As you mentioned, I get how many thousands of different applications of hemp plant, but we need to get the infrastructure in place, the mills in place, all that in place, so we do have a product that we can take to market. We're short-sighted on the manufacturing capability in the state of Georgia. I would say in the Southeast, there's great opportunity for investors to come in and start building that up. But I'm in Dahlonega, Georgia, and we're in the mountains. We're mountain-grown hemp. The good thing about mountains is that the temperatures come down lower at night and give that plant time to rest. Georgia did a study, University of Georgia, 2 years ago. The plants that were grown in the region, Appalachia, up here in the mountains, grew 3 to 4 times larger than the plants in southern Georgia that we were going for CBD, because they have better soil. It's more sandy soil down when you get to where you are, down in South Georgia, North Florida. Here we have a clay and we have really good loam in the mountains, so a really good fertile place to grow hemp, and the temperatures are more suited for the plant. Likes the cooler temperatures at night.
Yeah. So Catherine, we had a question come up, and I don't know if you know of this, but if you don't, we'll find out. But is there an active African American Farmers Association chapter that I know that you're working with the ones in Georgia, but I know that we have some people that are interested in getting connected. Do you know of?
They're in South Carolina, this group, but I'm working with them as well, friends of them, trying to bring the Georgia and South Carolina group together, and I'll tell you why. I met with the head of the Department of Agriculture for Hemp in South Carolina, and I also emailed the Georgia Department State of Agriculture for Hemp as well. The response I got from Georgia was one sentence. The response I got from South Carolina was a book that she had prepared on sharing. So I brought that book from South Carolina, and I brought it to the lady, Karen Simmons, the Hemp Summit organizer, and she also is in charge. So sharing information again. I got one sentence back from one Department of Ag, and I got a novel that she had created, Vanessa had created in South Carolina. So sharing that information. And I met Jermaine Mullen, who is the president of the African American Farmers Association, and they're in Georgia. Nicole Dice is the vice president. I met them in South Carolina because they were sharing so much information. I want to tell you, when I went to Georgia last week, I told Mr. Mullen I'm going to Georgia to meet with them, and he drove up to meet with me from South Carolina to share information. So again, it's those type of conversations that we have to just keep bringing people together, and that's why it's so important to know that state to state is very different with laws, as Eric keeps mentioning. Very important to be aware of that. And information too, very minimal I've received in Georgia, but a wealth of information in South Carolina. So now we need to connect that back and share it with each other so we can develop and grow stronger. So that's just one thing I wanted to point out in my perception of what's happened. I'm very excited to meet with Henry now, because I was looking for someone like him, because I didn't even know you were in Georgia, and that's what I've been looking for, is another resource that I could share my information and technology that I've brought with me from Canada. And I've been down to, again, I told you, I noticed there's only one lab in Georgia, so I'm going to change that, because minority-owned businesses also have to have a market share in that. And so putting a lab in South Carolina, doing the same thing in Georgia, there's no way we can't take the same footprint and share it with Florida now too. And these really southern states need to come together, because you can get more than one crop as well. So that could be very profitable for everyone, knowing that they could get more than one crop. So I guess just keep bringing people together, keep having these conversations. That's exactly what we need to keep doing.
No, and I'm sharing on the screen right now. The Hemp Summit is coming up in Georgia, June 3rd through the 5th. Email them for information. I didn't have a website on the flyer, but if you email Hemp Summit 2021 at Gmail, we're not, InfoMM is not involved. We might be trying to get involved. I don't know.
Yes, you are. Yes, you're involved.
Yeah, so I'm told we are, but regardless, we don't have to be involved to be able to share the information. And we know education
Hey.
is key, it's critical. Because E, can you talk about the fact that for someone that's in Virginia, the first thing they should be thinking about doing in any state is looking at what the laws are in regards to how do you get your license. Can you talk about the application process? Because it's easy for some states and some states a little bit harder. And I know you help out a lot of our members on their application here in Florida.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also want to mention the Florida Hemp Conference in Orlando coming up just this coming week.
That's right. And we'll be there.
Well, yeah, we'll be there at the Hemp Conference here in Orlando. Was it Wednesday and Thursday, I believe? But yeah, you know, when it comes to that application process, fortunately, you know, is kind of night and day to the cannabis application, where, you know, I know in the state of Florida, we were very deliberate not to make this, you know, like a dissertation type application and something that, you know, your average farmer would be able to go in and very easily fill out. But, you know, you got to do some prep before you actually get to the application. Like, you got to know where you're going to farm, you know, that farmland, and getting GPS coordinates, where you're going to store your crops, and having GPS coordinates for that. You know, most states are going to require you to get back, you know, fingerprinting and background check, and they're going to require, well, in the state of Florida, we required the live scan. So it's not even the ink one. So you have to find providers that do the digital, you know, fingerprinting for both anybody who's going to have ownership to a certain level, as well as who gets to be the decision maker, who's going to be the farmer, you know, the person on the farm actually tending to the plants and making decisions. Those people will all have to get, you know, fingerprinted. You know, Henry talked about a pest management plan. Here in Florida, when you submit your application, we actually, again, we took some of the guesswork out for people. You know, one of the plans that they wanted to have in place was, you know, how are you going to keep this plant from going, you know, to pollinating someone else's field, or, you know, how are you going to, you know, keep it from becoming an invasive species? So an environmental containment plan, a transportation plan. These are all things that are not difficult, you know, to create, but you have to have these things in place, or know what you're going to do before you even go and submit your application. Or, you know, so I recommend go to, you know, and I haven't really checked out everyone else's website recently, but on the Department of Ag for the state of Florida, on the hemp page, they actually, and again, I sit on the advisory board, so this was something that we fought for. In particular, I chair the Consumer Education Committee. I wanted everything to be so transparent that, you know, it was, you know, elementary for folks. And so they have sample transportation plans, sample environmental containment plans, so that, again, you're not having to go out there and reinvent and recreate the wheel. You have some resources that you can actually start from and understand, you know, kind of what you need to have in place. And then I also encourage everybody, pick up the phone, call your Department of Ag, you know, ask the questions. And one of the things that I think is different from the cannabis, you know, I guess medical marijuana and adult use markets, is that Department of Ag actually want farmers to win. Like, they want to, every state, whereas we need to have some collaboration among Southeastern states. Let's be honest, every state is right now competing to make sure that their farmers are best, you know, in the best situation to be able to get their state a win. And when it comes to agriculture, in particular with the hemp plant. So they want to help you. I have found them to be extremely helpful in answering questions and connecting dots. You know, if you don't know where to get your genetics, call your Department of Ag. Certainly they can't make the purchase for you or evaluate it and do due diligence, but they can point you, you know, to a couple of sources that have been approved, or, you know, that they know are doing well. So don't be afraid to pick up the phone and just begin asking questions and learn as much as you can. It will save you headache, time, and money.
Headache after headache. We had a question. What about seeds for hempcrete? I know as we're starting to wrap up. And I don't know if anyone wants to weigh in on that, but like, if someone wants to just grow for hempcrete seed recommendation, or what should they be thinking about?
I would go to those farmers that are farming for CBD, because the hempcrete is part of the herd of the plant. Most farmers just take that and compost that and get rid of it. You probably have a lot of opportunities without growing it and actually just going and harvesting the byproduct of all the farms, and that's the sustainability part of it. I'm taking mine and getting the fiber off of mine. Even my seeds, when I do grow my seeds, only a certain amount of the seeds actually make it to the seed. When you're doing, some are just I have a seed separator actually right over there. So that separator separates the seed. So what am I doing with the seed that doesn't make the cut? I'm putting it in a bird seed. I created a bird seed company, Greedy Bird Seed. So that goes into the bird seed. You're growing it for food. That's high in protein, so it's great for the birds. So there's no waste in what I do. So for that, you probably want to get a plant that grows tall, more of the fiber plant. If you're just using it for the center core, that bast. So you want to get a higher plant, like almost like a bamboo plant we talked about for that. Seeds, Georgia has research they've done here. The best seeds they're getting, unfortunately, is from China for that, because they're well more advanced in that fiber than we are. But that's what I would recommend if you're looking for a seed. University of Georgia is a great resource. We're still trying to get over the stigma. It's probably 50-50. But if you get a hold of the right people, you can get some great information from University of Georgia. Yeah. They haven't been well funded. Yeah.
I was going to say, I have a resource. My seed provider for grain also has a really good fiber genetic. Again, I'm not growing that one, so I can't speak to the intricacies of it. But I do have a resource if someone is interested in growing for it. But again, I echo what Henry said. If you've never farmed, look at different parts of the supply chain that you can, kind of interject yourself into, because there is so much that needs to be done. I mean, Henry just named off 5 different businesses just from, what he's doing.
And no growing.
Right. And so there are definitely ways to, situate yourself, in smack dab in the middle of the supply chain. I'll tell you something that we haven't mentioned on here, trucking and transportation, shipping is a nightmare for me. I'll tell you, every time I've had a large order of anything shipped anywhere, there has been absolute, craziness. And that can, again, you can have thousands of dollars tied up in your shipping. And I had to submit insurance claims, and it took me months to get my money back, and those things that they, again, most people don't tell you about the pitfalls of this industry. But, be prepared for the all of the unexpected things that can come up, and getting stuff from, here to there. It can be very, very tough. So there's different places for you to kind of get into the supply chain without having to be the grower. So, yeah.
Hey, Catherine, did you have a comment?
I just wanted to say that, again, the African American Farmers Association would help with industrial genetics as well, because they're providing seed to all their farmers. So, they're making bulk transactions for the seed so they can share that with their farmers under them. And, they're happy to take on farmers even in other states to sell seed and support as well. So I guess, and genetics is so important. So knowing that your source and lab testing is very essential as well. I know Henry talked about COAs. Those really have to be like a cool seed to sale accountability, right? So just making sure that, again, understanding regulations, rules, and speaking to other people, and just keeping the communication going, I think is very essential.
Hey, you want to tell them about Healthy Place Botanicals, what that is? And I know I get it.
Yeah, Healthy Place Botanicals is a company that sells botanical products online, various products, not just focusing on CBD products, but other botanical products, that turmeric essential oils that are all organic essential oils. So that's very important to stress, organic essential oils. So other products such as the bamboo toilet paper. So we're looking to put the bamboo toilet paper in every school system, hospital, because we know that toxins are being put into bodies through absorption of these type, and we need to, it's not a money problem. It costs the same amount of money. It's what the harmful effects of the the chemicals are doing to people. So looking at everything sustainable. Hempcrete, I'm working with a company that is doing contract farming for hempcrete, so I can share that information as well. Anyone just want, they'll contract you. They're looking for 50 billion masses of 50 billion pounds of biomass this year, just to sustain what they're doing with their community projects. I wanted to say that I'm specializing really targeting in Macon, Georgia, a community that's been very depressed and deprived in a lot of ways. So we're looking at putting a lot of community gardens and not just manufacturing sites for hemp, but we're looking at growing bamboo, other sustainable measures that go in the line with farming. And I just wanted to say soil regeneration is very passionate to me. We only have about 60 years of farming left if we don't do something right now about this regenerating soil. So I'm still going to get that message out there, because we need to we're going to have food deserts and food shortages. And if we don't make this awareness happen right now, we're going to have a lot of disaster happen. So reaching out to opportunity zones, which I just learned about. So creating community gardens in opportunity zones where there's vacant grocery stores where people can take advantage of. And you know, there's a lot of parent and farming community garden programs that are coming up. And that's a really nice way for kids to interact with family and bringing people together. So not if it's big hemp farming, but even if we have small community gardens and we have one hemp plant there to talk about. So kids at least know how to plant a seed and grow a vegetable. And I mean, there's so much, that's a whole other topic, but just keep the information going, and let's keep these programs and friends like this that get together and say, well, we're doing this and we can help you with that. So, thanks, Roz.
I love you so much, Catherine. Thank you so much for sharing. This is a great segue. Eric, talk about your Hemp and Fork and just the brand, the products that are coming from there. I'm gonna tell y'all, let me tell you something. I'm just gonna do this quick 30-second commercial. Hemp and Fork has this fruit bar, Catherine, that and Henry, that is CBD infused fruit bar. There's one in particular that is a pineapple green tea ginger. It's the best you've ever had. And I'm challenging anyone out there, if you got a connection to a retailer, a grocery, Whole Foods, we need this product in the store so that everybody can have access to it. So I just love it. It's like, I'm just in love with his fruit bars and his different flavors. So before you go, Catherine, I want to let Eric kind of give his PSA about his Hemp and Fork, and then you can talk about freezing and also hemp heart, your hemp heart.
You always humble me when you talk about it like that. It is a good product, and I did not pay her to say that, but I tell you both, myself and my other partner, who we make them with. He heard you kind of mention them before as well, and we both have just been floored by your response and reaction to them, because we believe they're that good, but to hear other people's reaction to it is absolutely amazing for us. But yeah, so my company is actually Legacy Farms Group. That's the name of our group. So if you're interested in reaching out to us or working with us on the hemp farming side, you can reach us by email, info@legacyfarmsgroupfl.com. But our forward-facing brand, our consumer-facing brand, is the Hemp and Fork. And we put out our first product back in November, which are our hemp hearts. And, I'm proud to say that we are the first Black-owned hemp heart brand in the country. And we're positioning Legacy Farms as a hemp food manufacturer. So we have other products that are going to be deriving from the hemp seed themselves that we'll be putting out. But we put out our second product right around 420 this year, which were our all-natural organic fruit bars that are hemp infused with water-soluble CBD. So they are absolutely amazing. These aren't like your popsicles that you put in your mouth and they start to melt the second they're out of the freezer. I mean, we're talking very rich, dense, or organic. You have to chew this bar. Like it's food, it's fruit, and never before frozen. We're doing some interesting clays with different flavors. Roz mentioned the pineapple green tea and ginger. We also have a strawberry pitaya For those of you who don't know what pitaya is, the same thing as dragon fruit. We have a strawberry guava. We have a Utruva mango. Utruva is a Colombian cherry that we put in there. So we're spicing it up with some flavors and so on. So yeah, we definitely have those available. We actually got a couple more flavors, Roz, that we're going to be introducing, I think, when we go out to LA. So, you know, I got a nice little surprise for you on that one too. But yeah, we're currently looking
to be able to have a frozen fruit bar. So it's not dry. This is a frozen treat that, especially when it's hot, but then you do get the CBD that's in there, and you get a boost. You'd be like, we were out doing an expungement clinic and we're outside, it's hot. You eat a fruit bar, and then the next 15, 20 minutes, you just feel like a burst of energy. So
you know,
good.
And we played around with
I'm
that.
such a fan.
Like, we only put 10 milligrams, and we were, you know, we call ourselves kind of playing it safe. Like, let's not go too crazy with it. But I'll tell you, like, it was such a, like you said, I wasn't sure whether we would get the effect we wanted with just 10 milligrams in the bar. But you're absolutely right. You know, just personally, I take one before I go to bed, and I have the most amazing sleep because that you know, by the time I finish it and I sit there and I do a little meditating, and then I go to sleep, and it's a deep, very, you know, reproductive sleep because of it. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that we use water soluble CBD, so you have greater bioavailability of the CBD. And it's really getting into your system. So yeah, I'm very proud of those. Thank you for mentioning them. We are working on a subscription model to be able to bring those direct to consumer. But as of right now, we only have them available for wholesale and distribution. So if you are somebody, but we also, with Hemp Fork, we created this business so that other people can create business models off of it. So if you're somebody, you know, who is saying, I want to get into this space, but I don't want to farm it. I don't want to make products. I just want to, you know, open up some type of retail establishment, or I just want to go to my farmer's market on the weekend. Come reach out to us at, you know, with Hemp and Fork. And we'd love to be able to be your partner on that and provide you with, you know, some good quality products that you can take out, you know, and be able to do well with it. So that's kind of how we are positioned as a company. We do a lot more wholesale and distribution deals. So, but yeah, if you're interested in the hemp parts, they are available on hempandfork.com. You can grab those there, and then give us about, you know, 30 days or so, and we're going to launch that subscription model for the pops. But with the pops, they do have to remain frozen. So we got a little bit of challenges in getting those two people.
Listen,
with, you know,
Target. I'm calling out chain. I'm talking about mainstream chains. Let's do something that's out the box. CBD infused fruit bars, freezing. Somebody has a connection with Whole Foods or something, or some retailer that we can normalize this. There's Catherine. Go,
Catherine says she does. All right, we got to talk.
You're making me hungry. You're making me hungry. Hey, I got one question, Eric. One question. Georgia last year, because they didn't know where this was going, they made it illegal for CBD to be in food and beverage. So for me to make it, now I don't know if it can come in from out of state, but I can't do it in state. Which I think,
and here's where I think Florida had a little bit of you know, prophetic wisdom, if you will. All right, and you're right when it comes to CBD in foods. People, if you're going to be doing, you know, edibles or any of that stuff, pay very close attention to how the FDA moves around this plant. In particular, there's a conversation about whether or not cannabinoids in the hemp plant should be treated as a old dietary supplement or a new dietary supplement, and it has, you know, severe consequences for how we can move in this space. So
it's old. It's an old dietary supplement, thousands of years. They're trying to put the nuance in it, and then they got to go through all the regulatory stuff.
Yeah. And so, you know, the state of Florida, however, kind of saw the writing on the wall. And so in our state, if you are someone who is even if you're a processor, you're a product manufacturer or retail, you get what is called a hemp food establishment. Everybody. So even if you had a CBD shop and you're not selling anything that is, you know, food related particularly, because we treat the hemp extract as a a food, supplement here in the state of Florida, everybody has a hemp food establishment permit. So we treat it as a food here in the state of Florida. But you're absolutely right. It goes back to my statement earlier in the very first
know
chapter
your
of my
laws.
book. Understand your laws, because it is very, very different about, how you can move in this space. And so, you may not be able to manufacture the products, but I'd be curious to see if they allow you to be able to, retail the products.
Should be able to distribute it. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to sell your product here in Georgia.
Henry, I'm telling you, I'm the biggest fan, and it's so good. So as we wrap up, last but not least, I cannot walk away with you out without you talking about B42, these beautiful organic products. I don't know if you got some samples in front of you so you can show everybody on screen. But Henry, tell us a little bit about your product line.
So Blue 42, if anyone knows football, Blue 42 is an audible in football. Blue 42, said I. So in this industry, you are always calling audibles to laws. You're always calling audible. So never get so entrenched in a business plan or in something not be able to call an audible. So we came up with a really simple product line. Heck, I can see if I can show it right here. Let me know when you guys. So we came up with a simple product line, simple packaging. Our packaging is actually packaged in long fiber hemp. So we use the hemp and we package in it. We went through so many iterations of what we were going to do, and we just packaged in our long fiber hemp. It's just simple. Protects. We use all glass bottles. We direct print on these bottles. We asked our customers either to save them and repurpose them or send them back. We don't put them back into circulation, but we have an artist here in Dahlonega that makes glass. She's a mosaic artist. She's able to take this and repurpose this into beautiful art. So everything we do is sustainable. So this is Blue 42. We have tinctures, salves, and capsules, and it's all organic. So all our stuff is on our website, blue42organics.com. When I start looking at pricing, everyone says you're priced high. It's organic. It costs more to make organic products, ingredients, and to be sustainable. So you might pay a little bit more up front for our products, but know that it's a sustainable product and we're protecting this big planet, Mother Earth. And so that costs money. And we're just very excited about what this can do in so many ways. So we package sustainably and just love what we do.
So as you guys can see, Henry is a vertically integrated hemp farmer. He's not only planting, he's sourcing for his seeds. He is planting for his products. He's processing it, and he's creating products. And so it really is a very unique business model. And he started small. He didn't start with 3 or 4 acres. He started out with 300 plants, and it's indoor. And you guys got his website up here. I know you're going to probably get a lot of stuff. He was just featured on Atlanta 10 News. A great story, Henry. I mean, I'm super blessed to have you in my life now as a friend, as a fellow Knoll, and I'm going to learn so much from you. And you guys, just thank you guys for being on today. Let me remind people, and we have one question. I want to just make sure I address this question. Cena, I will tell you this: drying is really important. Go to YouTube and search tumbleweed dryer. And there is a dryer, and there's some other different. We have a great friend, Lisa Horton, out of Oregon. She has this mass dryer that basically dries. It was 12,000 pounds in less than an hour. And literally, it's huge. So if you want to learn more about it, hit us up or go to YouTube and search tumbleweed, like the tumbleweed dryer. And you should find there's actually a video about their dryer system. It's great. It's fantastic.
Can I add something real quick? University of Georgia is actually doing a PhD student we'll be working with is doing just that, drying hemp. So we'll be doing a research project with her. Right off the bat, if you can't afford a machine, you want to be at 50% or below relative humidity, 75 degrees, and you want to control your light deprivation. So you have to control the room to dry the plant.
I agree 100%. Thank you, Henry. Thank you, guys. Guys, number one thing, know your laws, find a partner, start small, make sure you understand your genetics and where you're going to buy them, find a good laboratory because you got to test genetics, plant. There's a lot of testing that goes on throughout the whole cycle. And then, of course, your funding. Any comments on funding? I want to do 300 plants. How much funding do I need to start out with 300 plants? What do you think, Henry, in regards to financing my venture?
You're talking about, you got to have irrigation, you got to have pots, you got to have, and you have to buy the plants. So you can pay $3 a clone or $3 a seedling, and you can pay at that level. You're probably going to pay that for a seed. So look at a $3 investment in the plant or seed, and then look at all the pots and irrigation you're going to need, and fertilization as well. And organic fertilization is a little bit more if you want to go the organic route.
Right.
So, yep.
But if you have, from an investment, kind of add all that up, a budget, give me just a range.
Let's say a couple $1,000s to start. A couple $1,000s in a kit of parts. It's good because I'm going to put all this together to show how you can start. We just spent $7,000 on a high tunnel. As we know, building costs are going way up right now and everything. So, mitigate that too. I might say $2,000. You go to Home Depot to get what you need, and it's $3,000 because building costs have gone up. So,
So anywhere between, guys, $5,000 to $10,000, maybe $15,000. But if you start small, maybe if it's not 300 plants, maybe you just have 50 plants, and you just watch and see how they grow. But anyways, I hope you've enjoyed today. I'm mad at Eric because he's making me jealous because I want to freeze and pop.
Me too.
So Catherine, thank you so much, my love.
Strawberry pitaya.
Oh man, Eric Range, thank you so much, my love. Henry, thank you so much, my love. I appreciate you so much, guys. This is it. Sow the Land Hemp Farming Webinar. We do this every single month. We're hoping that you enjoy this. Please make sure you share this. Please make sure that you tell folks about what we're doing and how we're just trying to connect the dots and make sure that everybody gets informed and you have resources to go to enter this really up and coming market. Without further ado, I hope you guys have a great weekend. Enjoy your Saturday and Sunday. And if you need anything, make sure you reach out, become a member of M4MM. Call us if you need us. Go to our website, M4MMUnited.org, and I will see you guys next week. So thank you guys so much. Have a great day.
Hey, Eric, give King of Pops a run for their money, man.
Hey, listen, we're ready. We are ready.
It's great. It's good stuff, man. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.